Hi, we're here with Jeremy Goldstein, and we're going to talk about music lessons and growing up playing music. So thank you, Jeremy, for being here.
Oh, sure. Thank you for the invite.
First off, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up up until I was 12 years old. I grew up in New York. And then once I was hit 12, then my family moved to Philadelphia. And then had been in Philadelphia for 12 years and then came out to California. In my first 12 years, I wasn't interested in music one single bit. So everything was sports, and sports. I didn't care about anything. And then, but I did, I'm from the generation when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan live. So that got me really interested because, man, every time the Beatles, the Stones, any of those English bands were on Ed Sullivan, I'd be watching that. And that's really kind of what got me then being interested in music once I knew I wasn't really great in sports. So I gravitated more towards music. And like I said, watching all the shows on TV, especially Ed Sullivan, and I just loved the way drummers looked, and it was really cool instrument. And so that's how I kind of got started playing drums. I was probably like 13.
Wow. So who are your main influences? Would you say the Beatles and Rolling Stones? And do you have like drummers that you looked at specifically as influences, or did you look more at bands as influences?
Well, I was more into bands, but as like progressive music started coming on, then I got more interested in drummers. But it was really Ringo, it was Charlie Watts, and then of course everybody's Buddy Rich. When you see him on The Tonight Show, he blew me away, and seeing Buddy Rich got me a little interested in jazz. And then once the progressive music started, and then you'd read interviews and all, and a lot of these musicians that were real technical drummers, they were citing like all these previous jazz drummers as their influence. And my first big influence was Billy Cobham. One day I was in high school, it was 1970, I remember, and I listened to the Mahavishnu Orchestra a little bit, and then I see they're playing in a high school gymnasium, and we went with a bunch of friends. We saw like a band that opened, it was called Good God, and they were like really a good band. And we came, to see them, but more Mahavishnu Orchestra. We got there super early, and I'm sitting on the steps, and there comes Billy Cobham and John McLaughlin and everyone, and say hi and stuff. And we went in as soon as we could, and I was right at the front of the stage, right in front of Billy Cobham's drum set, and he had those clear fives, which were really cool, and then a double bass. And then once Good God stopped playing, like 3/4 of the auditorium left, and it was like just not a whole lot of people there. So we were, like I said, right up front, and then they came on. It was just like mind blowing. I never heard anything like it, and probably never heard anything like it since. Those experiences you get when you're a kid and the first time. I just remember Billy Cobham, you could just hear and feel those bass drums, those double bass drums, man. You could just feel the pressure going on there. Then afterwards, we hung around, got to say hi to everybody. Billy Cobham gave me a couple of his broken sticks. And then when I got, you go home and then you start looking up. You go, well, Billy Cobham played with this guy, and all of a sudden you're starting to listen to jazz. And after progressive music, I went right into jazz. I didn't really even listen to rock music that much. All my friends thought I was really strange. So that's how that's kind of like my influences. And then I wanted to play the drums. So my mother said, I was 12. My mother said, you take lessons. And if you could take lessons for a year, we'll get you a drum set. So I said, okay. So I took lessons for a year. And as you know, Rob, I don't practice very much. So, but I did last a year. And as soon as the year came, my uncle Morty, he was a jazz musician in New York, like in the 40s. He was a piano player. He wrote a song, and Billie Holiday recorded it, and it's on her greatest hits. So my cousin's still getting residuals from that. But my uncle took me down. I forget the music store, but he took me to a music store where a friend of his owned, and he said, "Fix my nephew here up with a drum set." And man, I got like a professional drum set. And I think it was like $350, but it was I still remember it. It was a 4-piece Slingerland in walnut, natural walnut with 20-inch bass. And then it got a set of Zildjian cymbals, the A cymbals with 20 ride, 18 ride crash, and the hi-hats. And I could barely play. It was like really bad. And then I quit taking lessons right after that. And then I just played, and I was like mediocre. And I played in some bands, and then went away to college. I kind of put all that stuff away, and then I didn't play until probably, again, I was in my maybe late 20s, and I started picking it up again and playing. But I never practiced, and so I never really was able to get up to another higher level. But I have a lot of fun. I'm good enough, and taking lessons with you really, really was the thing that got me where I feel more comfortable playing with people now.
So, growing up in New York and then Philadelphia, were you? Did you go to high school in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I went to high school in Philadelphia.
Did they have a music program there?
Well, they had not really a music program. They had the marching band. I think they might have had a band, but I wasn't really interested in that. I was still interested in sports. So, and I didn't really, I wasn't really a good drummer, and I couldn't play any other instruments. So I didn't do anything in high school, really.
So then, did you have mentors growing up that like your uncle or anybody that mentored you and other and any subjects at all, or
Yeah,
looked up to growing up?
yeah, it was my Uncle Morty. We'd always go to his house, and he had he had his piano in the living room there. They had a big house, and he used to play all kinds of music, and he would sing and entertain us. So he was like my big influence as far as, listening to music, seeing somebody in person. And he was influenced with me in more personal things. Like he always told me, he said, if you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a CPA, you should go into sales. And I said, why? He said, because you never have to ask anybody for a raise. He said, you want more money? You sell more. And so I always kind of reminded me of that in the back of my head. And eventually did get into sales. And the most important thing, I asked him one day, what's the best tip you could give me in sales? He said, never give up an opportunity to use a bathroom. And so I still do that every time I'm somewhere.
Good.
But as far as like influence, I had like friends. I had a friend, Jeff Slott, and he had mental problems and diabetes, and he had this twitch and everything. But he's pretty good. He's a pretty good guitar player. And so what we would do is I bought a reel-to-reel, and it was a 2-track, so I could add on at least one more track. So we used to make recordings, and this was before I even got a drum set. I would just bang on boxes and pans and stuff, and he played the guitar. And then eventually, I got the drum set, and we started a band together, and I met another good guitarist and bass player, and the guy who played the Hammond B3. Actually, high school, he had a B3 with the Leslie and everything. And so we would play throughout like high school, and then afterwards a little bit too. And the keyboard player was one that got me into listening to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And then once I heard that and I heard Carl Palmer play, it was like, whoa, it just was totally different level. He just technically just was great and had really good taste. And I started listening to the old time drummers back, and you go to like my favorite drummer from the old time is either Max Roach or Joe Morello. Probably Joe Morello, maybe even a little bit more, because he had such technique, and I would just be amazed at how musical he could play. And then I started reading about him, and then that gets you back into like Philly Joe Jones, and then you go back to Joe Jones, and then Baby Dodds and all that stuff. So it was pretty cool, and so I was really into jazz up until like today is my most fun music to listen to and play.
Wow. So, so you pretty much weren't practicing, but you were playing, and you're playing in the band, and you guys were gigging, and this was in Philadelphia, right?
This is in Philly. No, we didn't gig. We would play like we'd play parties.
That's
would be a big thing, but we weren't anywhere near that. We would play like the popular songs at the time, which was like, Creedence Clearwater, of course the Beatles, Rolling Stones, things like that. But I never really played, we never really gigged like out anywhere. Never, not while I was in high school. And then when I was in college, I actually brought my drum set up and had it set up in my college dorm room. And that was fun, but a lot of people there, and there was a lot of good drummers. So I'd be, playing with some people, and then a guy'd come in and say, hey, can I try playing? And he would just blow me away. And so then I put my drums away and packed them away and didn't play them again for probably 10 years or more.
So where did you go to college, and where was all this taking place?
Yeah, I went to college. I went to Penn State for first 2 years up in State College. And then I was having too much fun. So my parents said, you got to come home or we're not going to pay for your education anymore. So then I went back home and I lived home with my parents and finished up my last 2 years of college, graduated from Temple with a psychology degree. But when I came back to Philadelphia, I started hooking up with people that I knew again. And I had bought a new drum set, and I got into my high school girlfriend. Her father was in the mafia. And one day we went to 7-Eleven, and we go up, park in the parking lot. And then it was like the parking lot was on a hill. And so while we're pulling out of the parking lot, a car comes rolling down the hill, smashes into my car, puts like a little dent into it. So my girlfriend, she goes, we're going to call my father, and we're going to get a lawyer, and we're going to go for physical therapy because we're injured, and we're going to sue him. So of course we did, and then I got $2,000, or it was like $2,400. So I get the money. My mother wants to know where it's from. I tell her, she goes, "You can't keep it." So I go, "Well, what are you gonna do with it?" She goes, "Well, you can't keep it." So okay, and I went out and bought. Went to Centinelli's music store in Philly, where all the bands and everybody went. Went in there, got myself a let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-piece black Cortex Ludwig drum set with some pasty cymbals, and that's how that worked out great. Actually, I feel bad now, but that worked out great. And then I still have that set, and I use that if I play rock music. But then we just played with friends and jammed and did some parties and things. But that was pretty much it. So I was never really pursued being in a good band, because I was just mediocre.
But you were playing all the time. Even though you took breaks, you still came back and played. You didn't, like a lot of people stop, and when they stop, that's it. And then, they think about when they're older that they should start up again. But you kind of, you stopped for a little bit of time, but you came back to it always. And
yeah.
You came back to bands and playing. And even talking to I interviewed one of my teachers from college, and he said, like, he wasn't really a practicer, that he would practice all the time, because a lot of times we grew up with practicing many hours a day, because we were taught to do that since like childhood, that you have to practice, this many hours if you want to get good. But he was saying that he didn't practice a lot, but he was playing a lot. So he did like rehearsals a lot, and that's how he improved. So maybe in a way that's what was happening with you. You're playing a lot with different bands, and rather than playing by yourself in a bedroom, you're actually doing stuff and rehearsing and doing different kinds of band situations.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was fun. Like you play at a party or something. It was the best way to get chicks. So for me, that was like really big motivation to go out there, is to play, because you're cool, and all the girls like you. So that was like kind of my big motivation. And when I moved out to California, I lived in an apartment, so I just packed my drums up in their cases, put them in a storage room there, and really didn't even pick them up or play for probably 10 or 12 years. And or more. And it wasn't until I moved and I got a house that I was actually able to set them up and play and practice. And that's when I kind of started again. But always loved playing the drums, always interested in music and keeping up with everything. And every so often, if somebody would say, "Hey, we need a drummer or something somewhere, somebody's playing a party," I would go and play. So I did it like a little bit, but just in the last maybe 12 years is when I really started like kind of really playing and going out and playing with people.
So what year did you move back to the Bay, or move to the Bay Area, I should say?
That was right in 1978, November 78. And so probably it's when I purchased a home, which was in 2004. That's when I really started, and that's how I met you. I wanted to, I got started playing again, but I was really stale. I couldn't figure out exactly what to do. So I got online, and I'm just looking up, drummers and everything. And then I found your website. And Steve Smith, who right now, he's my favorite drummer of all time. He said some really nice things about you. And then I looked, and it was like not that long after you were playing at Yoshi's. So I don't know if you remember that. I went and watched you at Yoshi's, and really loved your playing. You were really tasteful after hearing people banging and stuff. You just really were tasteful. So I'm after your set, I went up to you and asked if you would take old guy and teach him. So that's how we hooked up.
I remember that, and I was that was very. It was kind of a serendipitous thing. You found me. I don't have that very often where people find me and then they actually come to see me play. So I remember you coming up to me after the show and saying that, and you were pretty excited.
Yeah.
And that was with Kurt Reebok, and that was a fun gig. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great. Your drumming was so original and just super tasty, and you only did those things that show the real chops if it fit into the music. So I was like, that's kind of the ideas of like what I had too, and so it worked out great.
Yeah. So you studied with me for what, 5 years or something like that? I was trying to find the dates and I couldn't.
Yeah, it was maybe 3 to 4 or 5. Yeah, something like that. But I remember my first lesson with you, and you're a real nice guy, so I felt real comfortable. That's why I came back for the second lesson.
Did you did a little trial there for a second?
Yeah. I wanted to
Okay.
make sure that I've had some other drum teachers throughout the years, and I didn't really like anybody. It was you're practical, and you cut through all the BS and everything, and you get down and explain everything really well. Plus, I never really practiced very much, and I don't know if it frustrated you, but you took all that into account, and you just said sit down and play 5 minutes a day, and so I was able to do that and work on things.
Yeah, I think that everybody's got a different situation, and the reality of it is that people aren't going to practice, hours and hours a day. And then getting older, I realized that, that could not be beneficial for everybody anyway. And then what do you practice? Even if you do 5 minutes and you get something done, that's even better than practicing hours and not really getting anything done. Because it's always the thing of like practicing something that's going to be beneficial or a quality practice session, and then applying that to playing. But the areas that I try to concentrate on are the reading, the hand technique, the feet technique, the styles, the independence, and then the asking questions, the psychological parts of it too, because music is it could be a very what would you say? It's got a lot of psychological impact on people, and I've been through a lot of that. Like when people can tell you that you can have really bad gigs. I mean, I could just tell you so many times when I've been put down, and that could really traumatize you. And then there's other times where you have something that's really uplifting, that you had a very good experience, and that could really inspire you. But these things of trying to be steady through your life with playing is really hard, and sticking with something, not giving up, is really hard, which you've done.
Right.
A lot of people quit, and determine. I've been teaching for 35 years, been playing drums for 50 years and doing music. And a lot of people quit, they quit. I see that and they go, oh, I used to do that. And, it's one of those things that it's really easy to start, but really hard to continue. And there's so many things that could happen along the way to discourage you. And a lot of people get discouraged, and that's the end of it, So in a way that you kept it going is you love it, and that's the thing that I think with my teaching practice is that I love doing what I do, and I've never done anything different. I've moved furniture one day in my life in Boston, and I said, well, I'll never do this again, And I started teaching right away. I always played. My dad didn't want me to do it. He's like, oh, you got to be a businessman and do you have to fall back on something. But in a way, I did become a businessman. But I always was determined to never give up and kept it going, and I love it, So I think in a way that's kind of my philosophy with teaching, and I try to engage that with my students, which I think we had a good kind of a repertoire together, which
we'd talk we would talk about music for quite a bit of time.
And that you're not alone, though. I do that with a lot of students, and some don't talk at all, and some we do have this ongoing thing, where we talk for hours and hours and hours, and then we kind of get to we got to get to the lesson now.
Yeah.
And that's, not like everybody, but there's a few people that we have the connection, and that would happen. And it was fun for me because that really gets me, into the personalized thing of we can feed off of each other, and we can learn from each other. So I actually really enjoy that.
Yeah, no, we definitely enjoyed it. Speaking of when you have a bad gig or something, just one thing that just came to mind is one time I was playing with my Filipino friends, and it's like every year they have a reunion of all the Filipino bands that were back in the Philippines in like the 60s, and they're here and they still playing in bands and stuff. And remember I was playing in this, for me it was like a really big auditorium, and there was tons of people, and I was playing Radar Love. That is hard, let me tell you. And I thought I just was screwed it up. It was just the most horrible thing that probably anybody was subjected to. And I was bummed out the rest of the playing. And then I get off and I'm just going like, I'm quitting. I'm just quitting. And like this guy came up to me and he said, man, that was awesome playing. You're really good. And he's like, really? And I go, well, maybe it was okay, because I think we're our hardest critic. But sometimes that happens too, is that you think that you're played so horrible because we're hard on ourselves. And actually, came out okay. And so I continued.
Yeah, that's the kind of the psychological stuff that can be tormenting. And I could tell you, just like I was saying before, there's just so many times where, you felt it affects you for a while. It stays with you when you have something that goes negative. It's funny. I interviewed another student. I go, what were the most positive things that you can remember playing in your life? And he'd go, I can only remember the negative things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a psychological thing. Like you remember the negative, and I do that too. I remember the negative times, but you're not thinking about the good times and the positive times where things went well, But it's our psychological kind of like wiring. We remember like, oh, I remember this bad gig and I thought it was horrible, and this happened and that happened. I got yelled at, and I got kicked out of this band or something. But we don't remember when you actually got the audition. And I know a lot of people. When I listen to or I watch interviews, some people talk about, I got this gig, I got that gig. Some people brag about that, but I think in actuality, when it comes out, they had some really negative experiences too. They just want to look good, so they'll talk about all the good experiences.
Sure.
But the negative, I got to say that the negative experiences help you. It humbles you, because that hey, you have stuff to work on. That you're not perfect, and I think when you have all the positive experiences, the nothing, you had no challenges, and then you tend to get a little bit more cocky. You come off like I mean, when I went to college, when I went to Berklee College of Music, it was nothing but that. Like everybody thinking that they were great, and the ego level was like, you know, and it was really tiring, you know, because we're all there to get better. We're not there to go like we're already great, you know.
Exactly.
We're there to actually improve, you know, and take it in and help each other, you know. So I think in a way the negatives and the positives work out together, you know, to help you you become a better person. And
Oh, in everything in life.
right.
I remember watching I didn't see it live, but Joe Morello, when he was really old, he was on, I forget which late night talk show, but he was on a late night talk show. And this is probably the first time people had seen him, I'm pretty sure, or heard about him. And he's playing, he drops one of his drumsticks, and he's like, by then he was kind of blind. So he's talk about maybe embarrassing yourself, but he dropped the stick and then he just kept playing. And then he's feeling around to see if he could get another stick. And he just did it, and he went through and played great. So, you know, it happens to the best sometimes. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But that was, to me, that was a pretty good lesson that, you know, you screw up, you just keep going on.
Keep going on. Don't dwell on it, right? Don't dwell on the negative, because tomorrow's another day. You know, we'll get
it. Exactly.
So I'm just going to wrap up here. So right now you're doing sales. You're doing, like you said that you had started. You're still doing sales, and
yes.
And you're playing still, and you've got different projects you're doing.
Yes, still playing, and the things that I just also wrapping up too. I just wanted to say, like, the things that I really got out of you. There's a lot, but one thing is I used to have to play everything perfect. And I remember, I forget what song it was, and I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that little fill or something. And you said, it doesn't matter. You said, nobody's going to hate you if you didn't do it. You said, you know, it was just like you play for the music. So that always, that really helped me, because I wasn't getting so much down on myself. And I think the big thing, and I'm so glad that I did it, is learning how to read music, because I couldn't before. And, you know, I could do a little things, and I knew some of the rudiments, but I couldn't, I didn't know how to read music. And now I can't read like charts. But if what I want to do is, if I want to learn a song, and before I would have to sit down and listen to it and think, what did I get? Now I could either look it up online, and I could read the music now, or I can listen to it, and then takes me a while, but I could write it out. And once I write it out, I find that, man, I could play the stuff. And that brings to the second point, is you taught about step practicing. So like if you have this big long riff or whatever you're trying to do, you do it in little parts, and that's helped me tremendously in learning to play. Like, especially, you know, jazz is a little harder than rock music. To make it sound really good. And so I was learning how to play like the bossa nova and some of these other Latin beats, and I couldn't figure it out for nothing. But then I got online and I looked them up, and then I just step practice. So you do like one measure or even half measure, you get that down, then you do the next half of the measure, and you keep doing that, and before long you've got the whole thing down, and then you could practice and, you know, build up your speed to that. So those were great things that, I mean, up until just today, you know, last night we were playing, what was that, St. Thomas, and I was able to look it up and found out and looked up Max Roach's, how he played it. I could actually do it. It took me a long time to figure it out, but I was able to do it. So those were the big things that I got out of you, and just the pure joy of music in and of itself. And you always said that music is to play for other people. You sit in your house and play your drums without anybody else. It's not nearly as joyful as playing for other people.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you for those comments and compliments, and I'm glad that you got something out of it, and it's helped you. And yeah, those tools I try to teach are so you can figure things out on your own and learn things. And I think all those areas you talked about, like writing parts out and learning how to read, I think are very important. Very important benefits to have, and very important of playing all instruments, being able to do that, and not saying like, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to learn that. I just play by ear. I think it's really limiting you, to what you can do, the full potential.
Absolutely. And I think too is once you could kind of read things, or even look at a chart and kind of figure out things. And now, like, I never felt I was a musician. I felt like I was a drummer. But now that I could read music, and even when we're going to play a new song and the keyboard player gives me the chart, like a lot of it I don't know, but I could see like where there's like something that I could play along with, or that goes along with this. I could see the notes and hear in my mind what that sounds like. And so since that, I feel like I'm more of a musician than just a drummer.
Awesome. Last question. What advice can you give to other younger musicians that are getting into the music business, or what advice can you give to young people that are just getting into business in general?
Yeah, I would just say, I'm not really in the music business, but the thing is, it's to do for the joy of it. Do it it makes you happy. If I was to look back and over again, yeah, I would have probably, when I was really younger, I should have stuck with lessons and really learned. But, not everybody can do that. But if it's something that you feel passionate about, take lessons, because those are just tools that you use. It's going to let you express yourself. If you don't know English, you don't know how to talk. English, you can make sentences, you can make paragraphs, and you could write a book. So I think that's the big thing, is to enjoy it. And if it's something that you really feel that passion for, don't be discouraged, or don't let people talk you out of it. It's a beautiful thing. I love music, and something that lasts with you, hopefully, your whole life.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for doing this, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, we'll do. And you take care, and you're doing great. And I really appreciate you asking me to speak.
That's good. All right, Jeremy.
Okay,
have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Bye,
Okay,
Robin.
bye.